We want freedom, total and complete freedom. Secession. Secession is the answer. We hate the United States. Get out of our lives. Get off our backs. Move on.
As unhinged as the secessionists of 2009 seem to be, their throaty rejection of the federal government of the United States is hinged, sort of, on the Constitution of those very same United States. Specifically, the good old 10th Amendment, the one that says, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it, to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. Tenthers use the 10th Amendment to fend off government programs like economic stimulus with all of its unemployment insurance and infrastructure building. But it isn't just the governor of Texas and Tea Party kooks and guys holding signs on the street corners who use the 10th Amendment as an excuse to reject help for states' ailing economies. In Georgia, a group of Republican state senators, including the state Senate Majority Leader and the Republican caucus vice chairman, want to change the state constitution to allow lawmakers to invoke the 10th Amendment against the not even fully realized bill, sort of still an amorphous idea of health care reform. Yesterday, Republican State Senator Judson Hill said, quote, the 10th Amendment protects us from such federal mandates. United we stand to protect Georgians. United we stand to protect these freedoms for Georgians. Protect is an interesting choice of words here. It makes it sound like healthcare, the healthcare that the not yet quite legislation they're worried about maybe providing is a bad thing. They might want to ask the nearly 3 million Georgians, 34% of the state's population, currently uninsured, if they feel well protected. And of course, it's too late for the million plus who the state has already failed to protect from Medicare. But let's just consider all of them victims. That's 42% of the population of Georgia that is either uninsured or already covered by government-subsidized health insurance. Georgians aren't yet calling for secession, but if they do, they'll run into a naming problem. There is, of course, already a Republic of Georgia. Maybe they can be the Republic of Uninsuredia, or maybe Sickistan. Let's bring in George Washington University law professor and constitutional law expert, Jonathan Turley. Thanks for joining us on a Friday night.
Thank you.
Now, can you explain the 10th Amendment and what all these tenthers are talking about?
Well, the 10th Amendment is very important, and in fact, it's one of the things that defined our federalism system. Many of the framers were uncomfortable with the national government. They wanted to guarantee that states had a certain sovereignty to them, that we allowed states to go their own way. And indeed, that's an important principle. I happen to believe in states' rights. I happen to believe that really liberties are best kept close to the people on the state level. But you can take that too far, because we are obviously a national government that is composed of 50 sovereign states. And what the 10th Amendment advocates are doing here is pushing the language of the amendment far beyond where the Supreme Court has ever been willing to go. It's very rare for the Supreme Court to strike down any law under the 10th Amendment. On its face, as you've noted, the 10th Amendment says that any powers are not given to the federal government or not prohibited to the states remain with the states. That's an important principle of federalism. But the Supreme Court has really rejected the vast majority of efforts that say that large federal mandates and programs intrude upon state sovereignty. I mean, in 1991, in New York versus the United States, they did strike down one law dealing with low-level radiation, but that was because we were giving the states the duty to enforce the federal law. Otherwise, it's pretty much been a losing hand for people who have been arguing this type of point.
Now, you say it's rare and it's a losing hand, but I've read that the tenthers themselves, they point to states that ignore federal laws like daylight savings time and helmet laws. Is it possible to use that same logic to deny daylight savings time? You could also use that same logic to reject a federal program to provide health insurance?
Well, it's not very good logic even in those areas, so I wouldn't start importing it here. The answer is no, that states do have the right to go their own way, and many states have said that we're not going to be forced by the federal government to do things we don't want to do, like have helmet laws. The federal government, in turn, can withhold federal funding. They can put pressure on the states. But states can certainly refuse that federal money and go their own way. There's a big difference between between that and saying that somehow we're going to not allow Georgians to benefit from a national program. Now, by the way, this Georgia law is, in my view, perfectly absurd. I mean, I can't, I don't understand what it is that they're thinking. If the 10th Amendment means what they say it means, you don't have to change the state constitution because the federal government can't do it. And so you could just rely on the 10th Amendment. And so I'm perfectly confused as to why they're doing this and certainly what they're doing.
It seems like they're kind of confused too, quite honestly. Now, Jonathan,
well, that's why we're here. We're here to help.
That's right. Jonathan Turley, George Washington University law professor and a constitutional law expert, thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.